Hey everybody, welcome back. Oscar de la Hoya, the legend of boxing and Golden Boy boxing promoter, has just spoken up, guys. And he's been throwing some serious warning shots because he feels that there's some potential change to the Muhammad Ali Act that's supposed to protect fighters. And he's pissed. He's pissed because he says fighters are going to get screwed. This isn't just boxing drama for clicks, guys. This is the real deal. This could be a serious wake-up call. Let's get into it. Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Welcome to Duality 7X. I'm Shiraz. I'm your host, and we break down all the latest trending stories when it comes to the world of MMA, the UFC, WWE, and boxing. So if you like fight talk, that's real, that's raw, and full of my unfiltered opinion, then guys, you're at the right place. Definitely, please stick around because today's topic might just affect every fighter you guys care about. This is serious, guys. The Muhammad Ali Act is very important. It's designed to protect fighters, and I want to get into this, guys. So here's what went down. Oscar de la Hoya, the legend himself, is sounding the alarm over reports that TKO Group, right, which is connected to the UFC, WWE, wants to amend the Muhammad Ali Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act. What's up with this, and why does this matter? What's De La Hoya's angle? Well, he thinks that this amendment is actually built to weaken fighters, and not physically, but it's meant to weaken fighters' protections, and that in itself is more important than anything. Because a fighter that doesn't have any protection surrounding their business is a fighter that's going to be seriously weak and have no legs to stand on, literally. Right? He's claiming that TKO's first move entering the world of boxing is to push for this rewrite so they can pull business tactics from the world of MMA, UFC that have been somewhat controversial. I'm talking about fighter pay, promoter power, ranking control, all that kind of jazz. Now, I'm not like I don't know how true that a lot of that is, but there has been a lot of stories and a lot of people complaining about this, and so when you look at the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act, I mean, and for those who are not so super deep when it comes to this, I mean, its original goal was to protect fighters, to promote, to protect the boxers, to ensure that promoters, regardless of who they are, don't screw with them and screw with their business, to make sure, to ensure that their contracts, negotiations are fair, right, etc., etc. De La Hoya himself is a promoter, and he believes if you change it, it's going to open the door to more loopholes. Right? And he pointed out that the UFC in the past has been sued for like antitrust stuff and things along those lines. And he accused them of, suppressing fighter pay, limiting promoters, etc. I mean, he essentially just doesn't want to see history repeating itself, right? And I mean, there's stories of guys, the likes of like Don King, okay? I mean, and even like the fighters like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, a lot of legends, a lot of greats who all got screwed. And that's why the Muhammad Ali Act was there, again, designed with the purpose to protect fighters as well, to make it a more of a level playing field. Okay, and everybody knows that the boxing's a wild, wild west, and I'll get into that, and that's why this matters a lot, because I mean, for the longest time, boxing has always had their way and did whatever they wanted to do, right? No single body controlling everything, kind of like a decentralized type of an environment, lots of promoter power. Yes, fighters getting squeezed happens all the time. The Muhammad Ali Act is supposed to again create that level playing field. And now if this act gets weakened, there could be a potential shift more favorable towards the promoters and the big companies that are running these entities and businesses, and take away that power and that protection the fighters were holding so dear, so close to their heart, and giving it away, right? And like, I mean, when you talk about business, TKO is going to do what they can to make sure that their stakeholders and their interests are looked after first. But they're not. I don't think they're going to do it at the expense of the fighters, right? I mean, yeah, I'm sure they want to make some changes. Like any new employee or new merger, new acquisition, anytime somebody new comes into the fray, and they're going to see things that where they feel that they could potentially help streamline, create more efficiency, and maybe this is what they think is a good thing. I'm not sure, right? I haven't had a chance to really look into it too much, but from the little that I've read, it's enough for people like De La Hoya to definitely sound the alarm. I am a little concerned because I've seen it all too happen, with a lot of fighters, and a lot of people just get passed up or squeezed and never to be heard of again. And it's only the top tier echelon fighters that get rewarded, and then everybody else has to suffer. And some people will call it like the 80-20, where 80% of the profits and the marketing and the hype and all the money goes to 20% of the fighters, and 80 and the rest just gets shared with everybody else. It might not even be 80-20. I don't even think it's 80% going to 20% of the fighters. I think 90% of the money that's coming into boxing is going to 10% of the fighters. 90%, which that leaves you 10% going to everybody else, right? So that in itself is not cool. That in itself could be problematic, and maybe this is why TKO is wanting to do this. But these are definitely tactics that a lot of people are questioning and could be somewhat controversial. And this is what De La Hoya is talking about. And as I mentioned before, he just doesn't want to see history repeating itself. And he is quite worried because, look, De La Hoya is real. He used to be a promoter himself, teaming up with the likes of Bernard Hopkins, the executioner, another legend in boxing, and Shane Mosley, I believe, and they did a lot to promote boxing and to make sure that their contract negotiations, fighter contracts, things are very fair. They pushed up a lot of fighters who didn't really get a lot of attention. They pushed them up. They gave them opportunities. And I think that's important, right? So, but also on the flip side, not every change is going to be evil. A lot of people fear change, and it's a natural human thing to feel. It's a natural emotion. Nobody likes to be uncomfortable, and everybody thinks that change is going to bring some kind of it's going to impede in their comfort factor. And that's a possibility. It could definitely change, could sometimes affect you for the interim, but long term might actually be better for you. And in some cases, that change could just be disastrous and completely take away all levels of comfort as you knew it, and only to be replaced by being very uncomfortable for the rest of your life. And that's what a lot of people are afraid of. Now, I don't think that's the case with TKO Group. They came in, they changed a lot of things when it came to the sport of WWE. And look, a lot of the fighters are actually happy. A lot of fighters are actually getting paid a lot more money, and because it coincides with their marketability and all the promotions and hype that surround these fights. So there's a lot of people who are coming out and saying this is fantastic, this is great. But then again, on the flip side, what if you are just a fighter who's just been struggling to get ahead and nothing's working out? So, I mean, it's those people that are probably going to speak the loudest, right? So another part of this, honestly, is like old power versus new power, right? De La Hoya, he represents the old guard in boxing. Guys like him, Mosley, Hopkins, a lot of these other big promoters, fighters. And now you're taking on TKO, UFC, the new look and feel. This model is definitely newer. TKO Group has got more of a centralized system as opposed to like a decentralized type of an environment that we see in boxing. But that centralized feel is more corporate, right? And when you mix profits, power, media, politics, it gets tense. And why wouldn't it, right? So if that amendment passes, what could that look like? You might see promoters being able to push more control over rankings, title claims, maybe reducing like oversight from sanctioning bodies. Where does that leave the IBO, WBA, IBF, WBC? Where does that leave all these regulatory sanctioning bodies? What happens to them? Right? Could this lead to less transparency in how fights are actually being made, and who gets paid, and how the rankings and everything work and all that? It's a possibility. Or it could be the opposite, right? And if it doesn't pass, TKO might actually be forced to operate within the confines of the existing system that's in boxing today. And that could limit on how aggressive they are with new matchmaking and promotion ideas. If the TKO group comes in and they have to deal with all the wild, wild west and the jungle of a mess that kind of surrounds boxing right now, they might be less incentivized or inclined to wanting to do these big mega fights, super fights, and that's not a good thing. The whole point of these guys coming together, and now you got Turkey Al Sheikh, you got Paramount, you got Zoof Entertainment, Dana White, UFC, TKO Group. You've got all these big conglomerates coming together because they want to make boxing great again. And they want to make, the world of combat sports great again. And I think this is absolutely incredible that they're teaming up. But if it's at the expense of fighters, that's not fair. That's not cool, right? And then the question will come down to is if they start implementing these heavy tactics, what happens to all these belts? Do they become meaningless? Are the rankings going to be real? So anyways, this will definitely, not could, in my opinion, will definitely shape boxing's landscape. Unified organizations, promoter wars, knock-on effects for MMA, UFC policies, and potential legal precedents, crossovers, all that could be in question, right? So I definitely feel De La Hoya is right by talking about this. I think it needs to be deliberated in a more. I think the powers to be and all those invested stakeholders and those with any kind of invested interest need to get together to find and to discuss, to deliberate in a manner where they can find comprehensive solutions to a lot of these different kinds of issues that surround not only the sport of boxing, but combat sports as it is. And I think if they can make some necessary change, I'm all for it, right? There's definitely room for improvement, streamlining efficiencies, things right off the bat that the TKO group could do. 100% they can. So I'd like to see what that change looks like and how that's implemented or facilitated. And I mean, I don't trust that all promoter side changes are going to be bad. Like I said, I think this is going to be a good opportunity, but at the same time, you also got to hear what the fighters have to say, right? I mean, they're the product at the end of the day. They're the talent. They have a right. They have an opinion. And I think it's important, right? These legislative pushes could potentially sideline their careers in ways that they can't even imagine. So this is obviously a little bit scary. And anytime you have a business expansion, mergers, partnerships, all that can be scary as well too. At the end of the day, every fighter, all they want is just transparency and clarity, right? And what this is going to mean for their business, contracts, payouts, matchmaking. They don't want they want to leave the guesswork out of it. They want transparency. They want accountability. And that's it, right? So what do you guys think? Is changing the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act setting up boxing for new innovation? Or is this the opening the door for promoter exploitation? Now, if you were a fighter, how would you feel? Would you support these changes or would you be risk averse, right? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear your guys' take. And also, who do you trust more? Old guard promotion like Hopkins, De La Hoya, Mosley, or new entities like the TKO group, UFC? Let's debate about this, guys. I want to thank you guys for sticking around. If this is your first time, please smash the like and subscribe. Hit the bell notifications so you guys never miss a beat. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.